Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Hi, I'm Eden Lane. Tonight we'll bring you some more news from the Starz Denver Film Festival. You can see behind me they're getting ready for the opening night, which is tomorrow night as we film this. We'll also bring you some interviews with the filmmaking team behind HANNA Ranch, a Colorado story made by Colorado filmmakers. But we'll begin with a look at Opera Colorado and how they've scaled back their organization and their season and their plans for renewing and moving forward with strength. We visited the Opera Colorado offices and sat down with General Director Greg Carpenter. Well, it's so nice to get back into Opera Colorado to come and talk to you about what's happening at the company in advance of the gala. And this is our first time visiting your offices. I had no idea you were out here.
Yes, welcome to our glamorous location here in the lower level.
In the lower level. It's the garden level.
Yes, that's what they call it.
But I do appreciate you making time for us to come in and interrupt your workday today. I know we're gearing up toward one of the most incredibly busy times for the company. So tell me about what has changed for the company since the last time we've seen you. We know that you've been working diligently to make sure that we have Opera Colorado as we move forward.
Absolutely. You know, we hit what I like to call a little bump in the road, or not so little, at the end of 2012. And we had to make some adjustments by trimming our budgets and also trimming the amount of product we put out. So we're at 2 operas per season for the next couple of years. But one of the other things we did is sort of switch our fiscal cycle in order to make it line up now with our actual season. It was always out of sync. And part of that is having a short fiscal year, January to June of this year that we're in right now.
That gets you on the...
And that gets us then back onto the track of a full fiscal cycle. And
so for anyone who didn't understand that and got nervous, it's really just making it easier for Opera Colorado to thrive.
Yes, you know, it's interesting. It's tough to do a 6-month fiscal year because typically you can't bring in enough money to balance a budget in that short period of time. So we did the impossible. We not only balanced it, but ended up with a $98,000 surplus, which starts helping us get ahead of the game for the future. So, you know, that's what it's all about right now, is being ahead of the game.
Did you have to make artistic adjustments for the season when we were reduced to 2 for this?
You know, absolutely. We had already planned a 3rd opera in the season, so we had to adjust that out of the upcoming 14 season.
But just for now?
Just for now. Our financial plans and artistic plans going forward have us back to 3 operas in the 15-16 season. So part of what we're doing is also getting back on track with having fall, winter, spring, and having our operas spread out over a longer period of time. So, you know, this season that we're just getting ready to enter will have them more compact yet in the winter and spring with our opening production of Rigoletto and then Carmen. But going forward...
2 little operas that no one has ever heard of.
Exactly. But, you know, going forward then, you'll start seeing an opera in the fall and one in the spring for the next season, and then the following season, that 15-16 season, will have fall, winter, spring.
And while all this is going on, you're still doing the outreach and educational programs.
Absolutely. Nothing has really changed there. We're still committed to what we do out in the community, not just for kids, but for adults as well. And
the young artists.
And the young artists, the training we give them, and then they're out in the community delivering those great programs. Nothing has changed there. That's an important part of our mission to this community, and we're not stepping back from that in one way, shape, or form.
It's incredible that bump in the road that you said, you were able to get beyond it, or at least a plan to get beyond it so quickly.
You know, I think one of the things that the smart decisions we made was that we were just going to face the challenge. I think so often it's easy to sort of go into emergency mode, try to raise a bunch of money, and then just go back to the way it was. And what we had to face is that the world we're living in right now, financially particularly, is completely different than it was 5-10 years ago. And we have to react to that. So, you know, by trimming back and then creating a floor of stabilization to then grow back from is really where we are.
So tell me about the operas you've selected for this season we're about to begin.
Rigoletto, I think, is one of the great Verdi pieces, a wonderful story, and also some of the great music that Verdi wrote, and some of the most recognizable.
They're going to know this music.
Mobile, and wonderful arias like that in this opera. And an opera that's filled with everything we love about opera, sort of the curse that's put on the father or on Rigoletto. How that plays out over the course of the opera. Two people who fall in love that shouldn't fall in love or are being kept from falling in love. And, the terrible fallout from all of that. And a lot of deception and disguise along the way. Those are the things that we love about
big
opera.
Emotion, high-stakes storytelling.
The passion side of this art form that we love.
And that's our first one of
And
this
that's
season.
the first one with a really fabulous all-star cast. One of the things that I feel strongly about is opera's opera because of the singing. That's what makes it different than straight theater plays or ballet or symphonic music. And so what we're really focusing on is really outstanding quality cast first. And this cast is really an amazing cast with Gordon Hawkins leading as in the title role of Rigoletto. Then we move on to Carmen, of course.
Is that his first visit with Opera Colorado?
Yes, it's his debut. And we actually went to school together and have the same voice teacher. So I'm really excited about having Gordon here. And then next is Carmen. Who doesn't love Carmen in terms of...
Who doesn't know Carmen, even if they don't realize they know it.
And again, an opera with even more recognizable music in it. And a story that I happen to think is one of the great stories of opera when you look at it just as a piece of drama, remove the music, and just look at it as a great piece of drama. You have this young officer who's sort of a country bumpkin coming from the mountains to the city, gets totally swept up in the beauty and the really sort of raw, fiery passion of Carmen. And it becomes a story of fatal attraction. I think it's interesting. Everybody talks about Carmen when we talk about Carmen, but the Carmen you see at the beginning of the opera is the same woman at the end of the opera. She really doesn't grow in any way. It's really Don Jose who grows. He goes from being this nice guy, officer, come to town, gets swept up in Carmen, and becomes a killer, a murderer by the end of the opera. And his girlfriend that he's left behind, Michaela, up in the mountains, comes down and tries to lure him back. And she's another person that grows in the opera. So it's interesting that the title character is the one that's stable throughout the opera.
Because she's Carmen.
Exactly. That passion and that sort of naughty girl, love him and leave him sort of character is the same person that's there when she's being stabbed at the end of the opera.
And who is coming to sing Carmen for us?
Sandra Peaks Eddies. And she is fiery in personality. She's just a dynamo on stage, and she is sort of the person out there doing Carmen right now, you might say, in terms of, when Denise Graves was Carmen for all, so much of her career. I think Sandy's going to be the next one.
And we'll have a chance to see her right here
Absolutely.
at the Ellie Caulkins. Now, the season is shorter. Are the young artists getting to do a showcase that we get to attend?
We're still using our young artists in the same way that we have in the past in terms of they're out in the community doing education and outreach stuff, but they also are taking on, when we've reduced our budgets a little bit, I'm giving more opportunities for our young artists to sing right in the big productions on the main stage.
Oh, great.
So for both Carmen and Rigoletto, they will all be featured in small roles on the stage. So the audience gets to see them up there front and center in this coming season.
We also have a chance, even though you said you had the budget sort of in hand, an arts organization is never fully comfortable with their budget, so we have a chance to support Opera Colorado for this upcoming season this month.
Right.
Tell me about the gala this year.
Every year we do our annual gala, and we always try to create a theme around it, and this year's gala is called An Evening in Black and White, sort of after the black and white ball of the 1960s.
Truman Capote.
Truman Capote, absolutely. And try to bring a little bit of that elegance. We talked a lot about in a committee meeting of you know, what does black and white make you think of? And I always think of sort of that Rat Pack, you know,
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, you know, Sammy Davis Jr., that sort of era, because you see a lot of black and white photos from that era and so forth. So that's sort of the theme and the elegance, but also the playfulness of the gala. Our gala every year supports arts education, so it supports our young artists and what they're doing out in the community to get arts education into the schools, into senior centers, into community centers, and so forth. So it's a big opportunity to put money into the company, you know, contributions, buy a table, buy tickets, buy a couples package, and be part of this company and know that what you're doing is actually funding our young artists out in a Denver public school or in a senior center, and bringing the beauty and passion of opera to youth, hoping that they will be our audience of the future, but also to the people that can't necessarily get downtown and enjoy it.
And Opera Colorado's gala from the past, and I'm sure will be true this time, isn't just another one of those dry, formal events. It's lots of fun and lots of little surprises. So even though it's really close to the event, we can still get tickets?
Absolutely. You know, tickets, you can buy them right online at our website, operacolorado.org. You can call in. There's information on the website about that. Tickets are at $250 a person. You can buy a couples package for $2,500, get a few more benefits part of that.
Yeah.
And then tables start at $5,000, $10,000, and $15,000.
And do we have a little entertainment as part of the evening?
Absolutely. Elizabeth Futrell, who is one of the great sopranos out there today, has sung in just about every major opera house in the U.S. and abroad, is coming into town to do a short concert for us that evening.
And it's at the Ellie Caulkins.
And it's right on the stage of the, so our audience sits on the stage, she's on the stage, we gather around the piano for an intimate performance by Elizabeth Futrell.
You couldn't get that experience for that ticket price on its own under normal circumstances.
You know, I think what makes Opera Colorado's Gala unique is, first of all, it's in our home.
Yeah.
At the Opera House, not in a ballroom of a hotel. Second of all, it has a performance. It's not just coming, having cocktails, sitting down to dinner, some little program while dinner's going on, and then you leave or you dance. You know, we sit down and have a real program that really focuses on what the mission of Opera Colorado is, and that is great art, great music.
And it also ends with a party.
And it, you know, then you get to go and have dinner and some great dancing and so forth in the Opera House. So it is a very special, lively evening.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the season. I'm so happy that we're able to share what has occurred at Opera Colorado and the plans to keep us thriving and moving forward with our viewers, and I hope they join us at your gala.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without all of you and all of the public. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the details are available at operacolorado.org. It was great to catch up with Opera Colorado and find out about how they're keeping the organization strong and ready to move forward, and what an exciting season they have planned. And I can't wait to bring you news from their gala at the Ellie Caulkins Opera House. And tomorrow night, as we film this, we'll be at the Ellie Caulkins for the opening of the Starz Denver Film Festival. So now we have a preview of one of the other films that you'll see there. It's a Colorado team telling us a Colorado story, HANNA Ranch. This important feature documentary tells the story of Colorado rancher and eco-cowboy Kirk Hanna through his family's eyes. Well, thanks for coming in advance of your screening to talk to us about your film, HANNA Ranch. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you ahead of time.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
How did this project even begin? How did you find this story?
So I read about the Hanna story in the newspaper about 5 years ago, and it was kind of one of those things I filed away. And usually when you have an idea, the next day you think it's pretty bad, but this was one I couldn't stop thinking of for almost a year. And I went down and I met Anne and was going to make a fictional version based on this story.
So you wanted to do a narrative dramatization.
Exactly.
And what tipped you over to making it a documentary?
Well, when you meet Anne, you realize how she is from that standpoint. And she took all these, I'll never forget this, she took all these laminated newspaper articles and kind of like the scene in Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent, she rolled them out on the floor. And there were hundreds of articles about Kirk and his accolades. And she's like, you want your film? There it is. And so went back to Carl and we kind of started talking about the idea of turning it into a documentary. And and that's where we went. And tried to bring that narrative element to the film.
What was it about that pitch that sparked for you?
Part of it was working with Mitch. I'd wanted to do a project with Mitch, and so I wasn't sure which one, and he was pretty passionate about it, and that was helpful. I also, at the time, thought it would be more of a conservation, environmental story. I thought it would be sort of a soapbox, story, which at the time I thought was what I wanted to do. And you've seen it, it's changed a lot since then, and it's not that, and I think it's much better for not being that.
It's much more human than that.
Yeah.
And still manages to kind of get some of that philosophy across.
Yeah.
Was that part of the intent, to make it more human and still get his message out?
Sure. I mean, I think everything's, the stories are complicated, and so you kind of lean into the gray areas, and we very much towed that line on family and issues. And I think, Kirk's story couldn't have happened without the issues or his relationship with his family. And so we were just telling the story that was there and tried not to exploit one side over the other and try to find that balance, which was challenging for sure. A lot of times, certain people be, oh, I wish you went to, more with the family, or I wish you went more on the soapbox side. And we kind of fought hard to stay down the middle and try to stay balanced with that.
I was really trepidatious about what this would be like. I didn't think that you would be able to make it as alive because it's a talking head documentary.
Right.
But you did. And I can't really put my finger on how. So how did you do that?
I don't know. No, I mean, the characters, those were, those people, a lot of times people say salt of the earth or whatever, but those are some of the most genuine, intelligent people the characters in the film really come across. And we were a very small crew, a very small impact, and so a lot of times it was just me and my cameraman, Zach Armstrong.
When you say small impact, what do you mean?
So no grip truck, no lighting. We did all natural light, all just on a DSLR with the prime lens, and so it was very much a small, intimate setting, and very we'd roll for 2 or 3 hours and just have a conversation, and so over time you kind of break down those walls and establish a trust with the characters on screen and get them like they're talking to you and not like there's a big camera and light and people running around on their cell phones and stuff, behind them. So
yeah, we're familiar with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think also Mitch is a genuine person. He's just an authentic person, and I can't say why people open up to Mitch, but I think there was a genuine feeling of trust between the people Mitch was talking to, and they were able to open up, and I think that's something special about him.
Thanks.
In particular.
That does come through, because I do feel like I know them even though I haven't yet met them.
Right.
And I know people like them. I grew up in that kind of environment, but I feel like I specifically know these subjects.
Right.
Amazing.
Thanks. Well, one other thing real quick. It's also just so tied to the land, so the B-roll as well was very like, Zach would be out there for days just waiting for the right light, waiting for the right shot.
Patience.
Patience, yeah. And
Obsession
as well. And Peter did a great job with the color correction and all the post supervision. And then another thing that brought it to life a little bit was when we brought Davis Coombe on as an editor at the end, and the way he kind of enhanced the VHS and brought a lot more of Kirk's
Meaning the family footage.
Exactly, yeah. We probably utilized a lot more of that, so he did a great job of finding that footage.
You also, in terms of the technical aspects of telling this story, you use stills and newspaper, and you combine all of that in a way that really gives us the exact amount of relief from just the talking head interview. Was that something calculated? How would you share those techniques with other filmmakers about how to approach a topic like this?
Sure. I think it's one of those things. We knew the story happened in the past. We knew it was going to be talking heads. First thing we wanted to do was shoot the talking heads as well as possible. Lots of distance in the background, natural light.
Beautiful. You want to make them look beautiful.
Yeah, exactly, and natural. We try not to bring too much attention to what we're doing. So when we're using the stills, we don't want it to be too cool, or too traditional. It was a Ken Burns type effect. So a lot of it was trial and error on how we wanted to utilize them. So we just tried to make every element kind of match and be cohesive with what we were doing and not draw attention to itself.
So, of course, the story takes place in Colorado. These subjects live in Colorado, so you had no choice but to make the movie in Colorado.
Right.
But you live here.
Right.
So what is it like as filmmakers in Colorado for you?
Well, I would first say that it may have been the other way around. It may be that we live here, and that's why the story appealed, and making it here appealed. It's, it goes both ways. It's wanting to be in Colorado to do projects. I think it was a great experience for me. I'm from New York originally, and have been here, worked on this like a third of the time I've lived in Colorado. So,
How long is that?
I've only been here about little over 10 years, and so it was great. I really enjoyed. I didn't get to spend as much time on the ranch as the crew did.
That's just the nature of your function.
That's just the nature of my function. And but it was great. It was great to get out on the ranch. Yeah, I can. And the community, we had a help from the Office of Television and Film.
Yeah.
But when you started this project, it wasn't as robust as it is now.
No, we were with the old incentive.
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough to get the incentive, and we did it back when it was 10%, which, a lot of times, people would balk at that. But for us, that's, 98% of the money was spent in-state, 100% of the crew was in-state. And so for us, that's a big deal to have 10%, and we were able to really make those dollars work for what we were doing. So, and very much kind of walk that line as far as like, what the Colorado Film Incentive could be used for by filming here.
And now you get to share it with Colorado audiences at the Starz Denver Film Festival, but you've shared it with audiences before this.
Just only in test screening. We've only done 2 test screenings.
Only test screenings?
Yeah,
the world premiere.
One test screening here in Denver was the first one, and then we also did a test screening in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, so world premiere is kind of...
And we're starting in a really small place to show it.
The first screening is it really? Yeah, the Starz Denver Film Festival, a really small place.
Yeah, in the Ellie Caulkins Opera House, like the small theater. We thought we'd
just
go,
a few people.
Just a few people to show it to.
So what does that prospect feel like to you, to know that the Starz Denver Film Festival really saw exactly what I felt when I watched your movie, that it really will touch everyone in that big venue, and it deserves this platform. What does that feel like to you as filmmakers?
It's first I'm honored to be on that screen and in that space, and there's a lot of great films as a part of this festival, so very grateful to be a part of it. But in that setting, it's just special. I mean, we feel like there's an audience here, and there's been a lot of people that have been excited to see it, and so we feel like that's the right venue to share it with, and seeing it on the big screen and in surround sound and with family and friends and crew. And
all dressed up.
Yeah, boots and all. We hope that other audiences that, HANNA RANCH is going to be new to is going to be, exciting.
You talked about when you first were hearing the pitch for this project, you were hoping it would be a soapbox, and it didn't turn out to be that exactly. So what is the mission of this piece?
I don't think I was hoping it would be. I just thought that compelled me initially, and I think that's a flatter way to look at the film. And I'm grateful that Mitch and the whole crew have expanded my ability to see depth in storytelling. And so I think all along it's been a balance of that, being able to tell important issues that were important to Kirk and that are important today, and at the same time, tell a story that's compelling and rich and vibrant and human and draws people in, because like I said, it's flat to tell a story. Just try and convince people of the science is it's hard, and so I think you get both, and I think having both is important. Having both sides of that is important.
What's your take on what the mission of your piece is now?
I don't know as far as a mission. I hope people take away what that land is, and it's everywhere. I think that I think a lot of times people don't give audience enough credit to see those, to be able to extrapolate the micro issue and realize that somebody in Argentina can say, well, that's happening here. We've heard stories like that, or in Idaho, or in
Ohio.
Ohio, exactly.
Or India.
We don't need, we don't need to go there and say, hey, look, this is happening here, and this is happening here, and this is happening here. Hopefully, we give the audience enough credit to be able to take that away, and then also, the family side of it as an issue. Family as an issue is really important, and it just so happens that this center's on a ranch, but the family business could be making shoes, and the stress of that. So I think that a lot of people can come to it with their own background and their own viewing of it, and walk away with what they want. And if they gain knowledge about conservation easements, or they gain knowledge about their relationship with their siblings or their spouses or children. I think that hopefully is a good thing.
Or what their neighborhoods are doing to the state they live in.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The things Mitch was saying today about how he treats the audience and giving them credit and all those pieces were there from the very beginning. It's pretty cool to listen to, like 4 years later, Mitch saying, because I remember when he was saying, don't push me that way. The audience is, we don't give them enough respect. We don't believe enough in the audience. They're smarter than you think, and there's a lot of pressure to put all those pieces in. Like
make sure you drive your point.
Yeah,
home.
Spoon feed them or drive it home, however, and that was Mitch pushing back, saying no. And the same thing with all those pieces you asked about, the technical side of things. Like we don't need this, we don't need that. We got to do this. It's pretty cool to see this sort of consistency over that long, relatively long period of time.
Well, and I would just say that it's a balance. Same thing. I try to treat everything with balance, but the whole
You're
team.
not that balanced.
The whole team that we had, had a say in how the edits were going. And Carl, it's his first film, but was incredible as far as like a collaborator and looking at an edit and kind of bringing a fresh eye to it, and thinking from an audience standpoint. Or our executive producer, who we didn't mention, who will be in town, Eric Schlosser, he was not sure he wanted to be involved from the beginning. So it took the same way building trust with the family and the interview subjects, it took a long time to build trust with him. But he was also very kind and was critical of the film throughout the edit process, and those were things that we needed. So
it's important to have someone on your team who is critical.
Of course, and we've got to be confident enough to know that our film stands, and you don't surround yourself with yes people are just going to think that everything's great. So it was a good balance.
It shows. I deeply appreciate this story. I can see the love and the care with which you told the story, and I'm so glad that we're getting to share it with our viewers so that they'll come and share it with you at the Ellie Caulkins at the Starz Denver Film Festival. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
This Colorado film documents Kirk Hanna's legacy as his family and friends continue to protect the West by saving HANNA Ranch. Details about this world premiere at the Starz Denver Film Festival can be found on their webpage.
Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.